One of the most valuable tips and traits that I've learned using Lightroom is something called batch editing. It's where I can apply all of the normal things that I would do to a set of images at once rather than go through each image and do it individually. I have spent so many hours on Lightroom. Before Lightroom, I was on Aperture 3 over on Mac, and I did not know this existed. So every single image was edited, hand edited and worked through, and it cost me so much time. And I'm going to show you guys the basics of batch editing right now. What's going on, guys? It's Jeremy with Jeramie Lou Photography. Thank you so much for tuning in. Guys, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. If this video helps you anyway, give it a thumbs up and then click that bell for notifications. It'll just tell you every time I'm on. So guys, just like my intro said, we're standing in front of the computer. We're in my office now, and we're stuck inside during the coronavirus. So I have a lot more time to show you guys a few things on the computer. And one of the things that actually got me very weird about that I still didn't realize people didn't know is batch editing. Whenever I'm talking on a social media group and I'm like, just batch edit the whole thing before you send it out for proofing, I get a lot of questions on what's batch editing, how do you do that, what is it? So I've decided, instead of individually showing these people, I'm going to make a video on batch editing. So guys, just like it said, I did a culling video recently, and you guys can definitely find that on my channel. It'll probably be something before this. And after I cull my images and go through and select the images that I want to keep, about 25% of what I've shot, I will then go in and batch edit these. Now, batch editing you can do for a series of reasons. The first one is for a proofing gallery. So instead of sending a completely raw, unedited file online to your client, or when you meet with them in person to go through Lightroom and pick their images that they want, instead of spending all this time and editing the files for them to pick and maybe not purchase, you also don't really want to send them images that aren't clean looking. So maybe all your images had an orange tint to them, or a blue tint to them, or a red tint to them. Then you would then batch edit these files to get them cleaner to what they need, so that your client can have a better imagination on what the final image is going to be. Also for you as well. Sometimes it's hard for us to visualize what a final image is going to look like until we start working and playing with it. And then from then you can go on and detail edit the skin and the eyes and all that of whatever they've decided to purchase. The other reason to batch edit is maybe you have 3,000 wedding photos that you need to get delivered. And instead of going through each file and creating a set style individually, you can create a set style of everything all at once. And it just makes it a lot cleaner and neater for your client. Also, if you're like me, you might adjust the style on every single set that you do, whether it's every photo, whether it's every portrait session or whatever. You have a set style for that that's maybe not your traditional style, and you need to maintain it throughout the entire gallery. Batch editing is the way to do it. So, all right, guys, so I'll be looking this way. My computer's over here, and right here is a gallery that I just finished culling in my last video. So I have it open. I have about 29 images here. And this is a good set of images to kind of show you guys what I'm doing. So a couple things you guys need to know before you do batch edit. The first thing is you cannot let your camera think at all, meaning that before you guys start shooting, you need to be shooting in manual. You need to make sure your ISO is set to a certain number. You make sure your white balance is custom done or set to anything else. I, in fact, leave my my white balance always on cloudy, or I think I do cloudy. I can't remember what it is. I think I always do cloudy. And the only reason is I need the same color temperature so that when I do go and throw it into editing, I can adjust one image and it'll affect everything else. Meaning that if you were to do auto white balance and every time you take a shot and you move, your camera's always adjusting. So it's going to make one a little bit warmer, one a little bit cooler, more orange, more blue. And if you were to batch edit all that, it's going to change everything, the amount that you're changing it. So if it's more orange and you made it more blue, one that's more blue is going to get even bluer. And it's not, batch editing is not going to work. So it only works theoretically if you're shooting the same way for the entire image. One thing I had to train myself to do was, and this is before mirrorless came out, so I used to use something called an expo disc. and I stopped using Expo Disc. So what I used to do is I would take my shot, get my settings set. So say it's 1/200th of a second, f2.8, ISO 200. I would not change that at all until I changed the location or the light source significantly changed. Meaning if I was shooting indoors with one window and had one client, I would take the shot and keep shooting instead of going, oh, it's a little dark now, let's adjust. Oh, it's a little bright now, let's adjust. I would leave it the same, knowing that when I go into Lightroom later on, I will batch edit that whole thing to change it where I need to change it. If you stick in the habit of changing it while you're shooting, your batch edit's going to be 3 or 4 images, then you have to batch edit another 3 or 4 images. And you'll see what I mean in a second. So having consistency in your shooting style is great. Just remember, nothing in auto at all. No white balance in auto, no ISO in auto. You can, your settings of your shutter, aperture, all that should be set by you and nothing else. So that's all we're focusing on: shutter, aperture, ISO, white balance. As long as those are all in the same settings, you're good to go. I'm also shooting in full RAW, so no JPEG settings as well, or if you do, just leave them on the same thing. But we're going to assume you're shooting in RAW and you're getting the full capability. So these images that you see here, I believe are actually kind of edited already. So let me go through and let me remove the edit from here. Cool. So this is what I get. I wonder if I can even, let me do a quick little batch here. Let's sync this. Can we reset them all? Select. Reset. Okay, guys, so what I've done was I went through these images before. I edited them, and I ended up deleting them. So this process was done already. I just brought these images up to show you guys what I'm doing. So right now what we have is we have these unedited images here, right? So there's no editing marks on them, no anything. These are straight out of camera. Now, if you look at them, I'm doing exactly what I'm saying that I'm doing. I'm keeping all my settings the same. And we can tell on this, when you click into the image and hit the I button, you can see everything up there. So my shutter's the same, my f-stop's the same, and I'm at ISO 1600. Now, I know that when I was shooting these images, of course, in the house that I'm at, this was during Christmas time at our in-laws, or my in-laws, so his grandparents, and yes, tungsten orange light everywhere, orange walls, brown walls. I knew it was going to be white. So, but instead of me editing that or adjusting that in camera and trying to tweak my white balance or anything like that, I just let it be the same, knowing that I could go into this image later and I can do my own little edit. Let me move myself over here, knowing that I can go in and adjust my white balance to whatever I need to adjust it to. So if I were to change that with each image, if I made that image this image this, and start to play with it, I wouldn't be able to batch edit the way I want to do in camera, right? So we're going to reset this and reset this. So it's super simple, guys, and I'm very excited to show you this. If you haven't done this before, please comment and let me know if you're trying this. I would love that, because this helped me so much. So we're looking at a series of images here. Now, if I shrink this, the series of images theoretically are the same. It was shot within the same time frame, a little bit different lighting, so you're going to see how things kind of change. And one trick that I've done is every time that I move to a new location, and I haven't done this in a while because I kind of remember now, but I will actually put the camera or my hand in front of the camera like this, and I'll take a picture of my hand. So as I'm culling and going through, I keep those hand images knowing that this is my signal to myself. Jeramie, you're going to a new location. You have adjusted your settings on your camera some way or some form or whatever. You cannot batch edit past this point because it will not reflect that way. and that's my trick. So I will take 10 images and all of a sudden, all right, let's go outside, guys. Let's take 10 more. I will take a picture of my hand, 10 more images, boom, now I know, okay? So if we look at these images, they're all theoretically kind of the same form, but not really the same, right? This is a different lighting source than this. He's running around. This is different than this. So we're gonna batch edit. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to go into my develop screen and I'm gonna edit how I want, right? So let me bring you guys right here. And I'm gonna go into my edit. I'm just gonna use a preset here that I purchased that I remember that I used it. I called it Peachy OP, but let's show you guys something a little more drastic here, right? So let's do something crazy. Okay, let's do this. So we're gonna batch edit to here. We're gonna make it this. I'm just gonna show you guys something crazy just so you see the difference. So say that I really love this edit, right? I'm adjusting the contrast, I'm adjusting the highlights, shadows, whites, texture, clarity, and we're doing all this stuff that we wanna do. So say we have this image, and say this is the image that I want, but I'm creating a set for my clients. So the last thing you wanna do is create a different image, boom, 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 per client. You wanna make sure that you have this edit. So there's a couple ways you can do it, right? You can theoretically copy this. So if you go down to copy, you can select everything you wanna copy and you can move it over and you can paste. And that's great for one image to the other. I can do it again. But what if you're doing a wedding and you have like 6,000 images? What if you're doing that? You don't wanna do that, right? So what we're gonna do instead is we're going to make that one selection of edits to all the edits, to all the images that I want. So here's how this works. So you have to be in your develop screen, right? So we're in our develop screen now. And what we want to do is we want to select the images that we want to work. So I can see this here. We can even make this a little bit bigger for you guys to see. So I'm going to select, I don't know, these all look pretty similar to me right here. So the first 9 images. And remember, I only have 29 images. This is theoretically a third of my images. So if I only had to do this 3 times, I'll theoretically be done, right? I'm just batch editing everything that's not retouchable. So I'm not touching the skin right now. I'm not doing any zit stuff. I'm not moving anything within the image itself. I'm just adjusting my color, my clarity, my highlights, my shadows, basically everything on this part of the screen right here. I'm adjusting. Even vignetting, you can actually do all at once as well. And we're batch editing that. If you do this successfully, you will maybe have your edits done if you don't really work on skin, but you'll have your proofing process done. You can send these images to the client and be like, hey, select the ones you love, and I'll edit them, and then you can purchase them, or purchase the ones that you love, and then I'll edit them and send them to you, whatever you guys want to do. So what we're going to do here is we have this button right here. So the sync is off of auto. When you click this, it goes to auto. We don't want to do auto. We're going to hit sync. Okay? I don't know how far back I need to go, but if you guys select the first image here, it's all based off of the very first image you see. So look how it's a little bit brighter than the other ones. And I held shift, went all the way to 9, hit it again, select it all. Right here on this screen, guys, is everything that it's going to touch. Treatment and profile, white balance, your basic exposure. So if you're like, you know what, I don't really want my contrast to do everything, then you select that. I have everything selected. I don't have local brushes selected, which is your brushes, your zitting, skin smoothing of certain areas, noise reduction, effects, everything that you want is there, right? The other cool thing is say that you all of a sudden we're batch editing and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, on 3 of these images, I totally wanted to just update contrast on them. Well, you can unselect everything, leave just contrast, select those images, and it'll batch edit itself. The other thing is the images, I think, have to be in a row like this. It's just the best way to do it. I haven't like skipped an image and done so. So I say, all right, this is all that I want to batch edit. Let's synchronize. Boom. We are synchronizing now. Look at the changes happening down at the bottom, depending on how fast your computer is. Mine's pretty quick. The 3 dots here are still working. But guys, look, if I go into library now, these images are now starting to change. And they're putting all the exact same elements that I wanted. Now, let's be real here. Those look like crap. And thank you for being nice about it. So I'm going to try to do the edit that I did earlier to it. So I used just kind of a different filter here, or a different preset. And let's say this is similar to like what I wanted or something, what I had. And I did actually really like the warmth. So then I'm just going to do that again. I'm still on my screen. Let's sync this baby up. Sync, boom. Now it just took all those adjustments that I made from the first one and went through the next one. So what I do here is I just keep batch editing. So I make sure that everything looks good. I actually go into this screen, keep it big, and then I kind of go down. So I like this, still looks good, it's all the same lighting. All I'm really looking at here is that the lighting is correct. And then I wanna make sure this is good. It's taking a second here, I think because I'm streaming at the same time. Everything looks good to me at this point. I like it, I'm happy, especially personal photos and proofing for my clients, it actually looks pretty good. And then from here, I know it's a different light source, so I'm gonna go in and I'm going to tweak these. Now, one trick that I've done to keep everything consistent, guys, is my first one that I've done, I'll actually select for the entire set, right? So we select the entire set right here. It's all selected. We go into sync and we're done. And the reason that I do this is because I want to make some sort of consistency with all these photos. I know that everything that I've selected, the contrast, the highlights, the shadows, the exposure, the warmth, the coolness, is all going to be based off of this, even if it changes a little. So as I'm going through this, since I've selected it all the first time, I get very particular. I go through this, see how this all of a sudden changes? This just looks too bright to me. So then I'm gonna select my develop here, bring this down a little bit. Just something like that. It feels a little contrasty to me. I'm gonna pull off the grain here because I don't really like it here. And we're just gonna tweak this to what we want it, right? And we're just fixing it for you guys real quick. And then what I do is I do the whole thing again. This is where my OCD kind of comes into play. You definitely don't have to do this. You can only select, you're more than welcome to select just the images that you want in the row, but I do the whole thing. I let this think again, and I probably only do about like 100 maybe a time. So if I'm doing a wedding, I'll select the next 100, and then I'll actually do this process where I start to go down. I start to look at them. Once the 3 dots are gone, I know that it's the final edit. It's starting to look good, the lighting, the color consistency. Now, you notice how some of these are looking away, they're not good. You would have culled this already. You would have made sure that the images that are in here are the ones that you've kept only. Go through, Jetson's still smiling, lighting's still okay here. This feels a little darker to me, but it's still pretty cool. So we can just tweak this by itself if I'd like, just add a little bit. And then keep going down. I just have a mental track on where I'm at. And this is kind of my process. So I'm going here, the lighting's changing here. We're gonna bring this down on my wife a little bit. Keeping the lighting the same. We're just gonna maybe cool that down. Select the next batch. And guys, how much faster is this to edit? All of my detail edits are done. Now I'm just really kind of playing with exposure and color temperature, depending on the location. All the same, all cool. I know I'm gonna go here one more time. Let's bring this up, bring this down. Let's bring it up a little, warm it up. And boom, done. So at this point, this is ready for what we call proofing. This is ready for me to send to my client and say, hey client, these are your, they're 50% done. I've messed with the color, I've played with everything, but I do need you to pick your final select so that I can go in and edit it. So last thing I need you guys doing is editing photos that people aren't buying. This way they can at least get close to what it's gonna look like. And then if they're like, hey, we love image 7, 21, 26, 28, and 29, we're gonna purchase those. You send them an invoice, send them an online gallery invoice or whatever, they buy those, then you edit them and send it to your clients as a final edit. So now instead of editing 29 images, you've batch edited your set, which maybe took you 2 minutes of your time. And now you're only gonna spend 20 minutes editing those 5 images that they're gonna purchase. So guys, that's batch editing. I'd love to know what you think. If you're doing this already, have a better way, let me know. I'm always learning. But this is my way. I've done it for years, and it's allowed me to edit full weddings in 5 hours. Most of the time is spent with 2.5 hours of culling. And then the batch edit maybe takes me 30 minutes to go through, and then as I'm going through, I'm tweaking and editing from there. And then a little trick that I've done is I actually will then go through again one more time and put a 1 to create a 1 star in certain images. It's a little bonus tip. And then these are all going to be my black and whites. So I actually don't edit black and whites all at once, because when I do it this way, I can then go in and batch edit again to just my 1s, and I can go in and black and white all of them at once. Synchronize. And that way I have just these done, and I can tweak as I go again. So like this one's a little bit too bright for me, so I'm going to bring it down. But that's it. So then I unselect the 1s, and now I have my 1s in there. So that's a little tip that I do after. But guys, finding ways to edit faster for yourself is going to be the way to go. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this helped you guys. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you need me to go into more detail, which I feel like I took this video, 2-minute video, and rambled it forever, let me know as well. Hope you guys are having a good day. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.